Alright, Nathan Cox here, still talking toilet repairs. We're basically at our last part in the toilet repairs, and one of the ones that takes the most extensive amount of repair time. Now this is something that most people don't do at all. They normally have this hired out, but I am going to show you some of the parts that are available. This is also going to be a product review of a couple different items. I'm going to show you two popular ones. Alright, now we're talking about these flush valve. Not to be confused with the fill valve. The fill valve I showed you earlier on, which fills the water in the tank. The flush valve is what flushes it. And what it does is it contains the main seals for the tank to the bowl. Okay, so it holds on the flapper, as you can see here. It's got a seal that goes against the ceramic, and then this big fat seal here goes in between the tank and the bowl. Okay, this is the Fluid Master setup. Not a bad, this is a very standard setup here for a flush valve. Now I mentioned before when I was talking about their flappers, they have some higher end, if you will, call them like water saver components. This is supposedly one of their higher end flappers here that's an adjustable flapper. I'm not really crazy about that. I like their base model, but it still works alright. That's what you get with this. Okay, you get two sets of tank to bowl bolts. Tank to bowl bolts. These ones are nice because they have a double sets of washers. Means you can put a washer both on the inside and the outside of the tank, and then one final nut to screw it to the bowl itself. Okay, that's a better setup than what a lot of toilets come with, which is just one washer on top, and then you put the bolts underneath the bowl, and you pull everything together that way. Okay, this comes with two. This one here is newer, and I've been putting them in. I've put in a couple, and I'm really liking it. This used to be my favorite. Now this is my favorite, and I'll tell you why. First of all, let me step back and let me explain that both of these are for a standard 2-inch flapper toilet. That's important now because it used to be almost every toilet was a 2-inch flapper except for like a Toto, and that had a 3-inch flapper. That was about the only thing that didn't have that. Now there was a couple of toilets, maybe a Kohler or an American Standard, that had a very odd flush valve, but most of them, this would fit, either one of these would fit 98% of standard toilets. But right now, a lot of toilets have a 3-inch flapper, so you have to be very careful to know what you have. If you're watching this video, unless it's way down the line, and you got a toilet with a 3-inch flapper, you probably don't have to replace any of this, because I'm sure the toilet is plenty new and none of this needs replacing. But let's get back on track here. If your toilet has a standard 2-inch flapper unit, this one here is great. I'll tell you a couple of reasons. One, if you notice here the flapper looks bigger. That's because it is bigger. It's a 3-inch flapper. But it still has the standard 2-inch opening down here for the tank to bowl. Now yes, that does bottleneck it a little bit, but this does claim on the package to help increase flush up to 40%. Now I won't say that I've actually seen a 40% increase, but what I have seen is I have seen older toilets that will barely make a flush, and I put this into them, and they put a pretty good flush afterwards. So I've been pretty impressed with that. That's the first thing I really like about this. Number two, I mentioned before in my original flapper video, I said I like flappers with a hard plastic frame and a rubber seal. This one has that. Check. I like the way that works. Okay? Let's go to the bolts, because we already talked about the bolts that come with the Fluid Master. This one's got 3 sets of tank to bowl bolts. There are a few toilets out there. I think Elger was one of the bigger brands that had it, that use 3 tank to bowl bolts instead of just 2. Okay, so this keeps you covered in case you have the 3rd bolt. The Fluid Master means you'll have to go and buy another package of bolts to go along with it. You don't want to reuse the same bolts and seals. You want all new when you're changing this out. Alright, so that's 2 positives. 1, you're getting a stronger flush. And I put this in and tested it, and it does work. 2, you've got 3 tank to bowl bolts. Like that. Okay, and they both have the double washer system. Okay, now here's the 3rd thing that I really like about it. You see the 2 tubes here? These tubes are overflow tubes, as you see. The Fluid Master standard setup, you stick it in there, and then some toilets will be good right off the bat. Other toilets you're going to have to cut this off. You can use a standard tubing cutter most of the time, or a small hacksaw to cut this off, but you are going to have to cut it to length so that it meets the fill line inside the tank. There's a purpose for this, because if this is too tall, and your fill valve keeps going and the water keeps raising in the tank, it's going to spill out like through the hole where the little lever is, you know, the flush lever. It's going to come pouring out of there and flood your bathroom. So this needs to be below all that. That's why there's a fill line set. This one here makes that much simpler. Check this out. It just clicks, click, 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 click. There is typically no need for cutting, and it has the little grid up here with the hole. So if you use the Fluid Master fill valve and you have that little hose I showed you in the previous video, it just sticks right down that tube. So this guy right here, Key put some thought into it, decided to let's take something that's been made the same for years and let's upgrade it. And I'm really happy with the way they did that. Alright, I do plan on having an installation video for these guys down the road. And hopefully I get that in a decent time frame. But if you like this video, hopefully it shed a little bit of light and shows you the differences of some of the flush valves. It's really easy to confuse. Some of the flush valves out there on the market and what to look for when you're getting them. So if you like this, please share it. Please subscribe to my channel. Thanks again.